Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next edition of the Fantasy Soccer Coaches on a cold Friday morning for me, a rainy Friday afternoon for Simon. I'm Baxter Colburn. He's Simon Mitchell. How are we doing today, Simon?
I'm all wet, Baxter. I'm all wet.
Get inside, Simon.
From school.
Stop.
Oh, it's soaking. It's absolutely biblical out here. It really is.
Have Noah and the Ark arrived yet to pick you up and your family to save you from the floodwaters?
No, but my little white Skoda managed to get us to school and back earlier.
Oh, perfect. That's all that matters. It's a good thing you packed the oars in the car so you can, row down the streets, basically, to get you to and from the school there. I love it. We've got a great show for you guys today. As many of you know, the Manchester Derby took place this last weekend. Champions League play is officially kicked off as well. And we've got a whole host of great things to talk about. We will be joined in our second segment by one of our Premier League correspondents, a new man joining our staff. It's William Walters. He's also a Liverpool fan, supporter as well, too. So he's going to give us some Liverpool insight for those of you that have Liverpool players on your fantasy teams. Similar to myself, I believe Simon has a couple Liverpool guys taking up some roster spots as well. So we'll get to him in the second segment. But before we do that, we want to remind all of you that you can find the Fantasy Soccer Coaches here on Fridays on Spreaker.com and also on iTunes and on demand as well on the Sports Podcasting Network as well.
And if you want to get in touch with us, we're available across all sorts of social media. We are the Fantasy Soccer Coaches on Facebook. You can email us, tfsoccercoaches@gmail.com. And also, if you want to tweet us, we are at tfsoccercoaches. He is at Baxter Colburn. I am at Mitch the Coach. So, Baxter, where should we start?
Well, I actually have a question for you before we get started, Simon. I'm placed in a very interesting position right now in my Fantrax League. I have Claudio Bravo and Hugo Lloris as my goalkeepers. I picked up Bravo back when Lloris got hurt, and now obviously I can't swap one for the other on an every given week. I have to either continue to keep Claudio Bravo as my starting goalkeeper, or I need to trade him or trade Hugo Lloris. So I'm kind of stuck in a very odd situation. Lloris is obviously back and playing, as we saw. He got a shutout in Premier League action last week. Obviously it wasn't the best Champions League draw for him recently, but I'm kind of stuck. As a friend, I'm coming to you, Simon, as I don't know what I should do with Claudio Bravo and Hugo Lloris. Because they're both very good goalkeepers on very good teams.
Well, I have just seen that you're playing me this week, so drop them both.
Ah, perfect.
Put in Arthur Boric at Bournemouth.
I knew you'd be the man to give me the answer, Simon. Perfect.
There. Well, where do we go? Claudio Bravo, very new to the Premier League, going to play every game for Manchester City in the Premier League because Joe Hart has gone off to Torino on loan. Claudio Bravo had a bit of a wobble in the Manchester derby.
Yeah.
He didn't seem to be all that. Manchester City have got a little bit of a weak link at the back. They have conceded goals.
Yep.
Whether that's the goalkeeper's fault, but mainly the defence as well. Tottenham now have a very settled and solid defence. They've got Sunderland at White Hart Lane on Sunday at 4:30pm UK time. Claudio Bravo's travelling to Bournemouth. If I was for just purely for 1 week, I would have Hugo Lloris in. I would drop Claudio Bravo. However, I would also take a look at who else has got rubbish goalkeepers.
Exactly, that's
in
the next
in the league, and see if it's worth a trade.
That's my next.
Where
else
do you need to pick up players?
Exactly. I mean, defensively, I have not had the greatest success this year. I mean, looking at my defense, I've got 2 Hull defenders and 2 Bournemouth defenders, and then 1 Everton defender. 4/5 of those defenders are going to probably get relegated. Maybe not, but they're going to be in the bottom. So I feel like I've got a pretty good bargaining chip, whether if I throw a Bravo or Lloris at somebody and say, yo, give me a player or 2 potentially to help me out.
I think that would be the way to go. I would probably... The trouble is, though, if you're Lloris, you're going to have to drop Bravo, so you need to make that decision sooner rather than later. And see who is wanting to pick up a goalkeeper. Maybe putting a message out there to say that he's going to put Bravo or Lloris on the block. See who picks up who.
Yeah, no, I compare with you on that one. So yeah, I just was curious to get your thoughts about that. Okay, now we need to move on to the important things because people obviously don't care as much about my fantasy team. They care about the Champions League. That is what people are talking about right now. We'll get to the whole Premier League and all that other stuff later. Well, in like 5 minutes. Either way, Champions League. It kicked off this week, Tuesday, Wednesday. Are you excited the Champions League is finally back, Simon? I know some people have mixed feelings about the Champions League a lot. Most people are like, I love it, it's amazing. And some people are like, it's a waste of time because it takes away from the Premier League or the La Liga or blah, blah, blah seasons.
Well, I mean, in regards to the Champions League, because Tottenham are actually in it, there's more interest for me. I didn't get to go down to see them play Monaco at Wembley Stadium, but 85,000 Spurs supporters at Wembley watching Tottenham abjectly lose to Monaco. But never mind. I mean, in regards from a fantasy perspective, you've got to really focus on Manchester City beating Mönchengladbach 4-0, Aguero scoring a hat-trick.
Yeah.
How many people in their Sun Dream team decided, Aguero's banned for 3 games, he'll be out for most of September, and dropped him? What a mistake that was. I've kept him in there, banged in a hat-trick, star man, 23 points on the board. You give me another striker that you could have replaced Aguero with that would have done that for you probably all month.
Well, if you play La Liga fantasy, people are going to say, well, Messi had a hat trick as well, or Suarez and Neymar, they all had good ones as well too. But obviously, totally different. But I completely agree. There's not another player in the Premier League that I think is going to get that many points in such a short amount of time, especially when it comes to Champions League play and how the Sun works with their fantasy leagues.
Yeah, and we talked about it many a time, and we've said that you need to see the league that you're playing, where your players score points, and ensuring that you select a team around that. So the Sun, where I'd like to share with everybody that I managed to get into the top 1,000.
Hey, look at that.
Out of a good couple of million people that play it, I got into the top 1,000 this last week.
Congratulations, sir.
So I'm quite pleased with that. I'm currently coming top of our league. But yeah, the Sun does score points on European and Cup as well as league games.
Which is really cool.
You've got to remember to try and select players that are going to play in Europe, in cup competitions. Yep. You can make 3 transfers every month with the Sun now. So again, somebody like Aguero would have been worth dropping if you didn't think he was going to play much games. But I would rather risk keeping Aguero in my team than drop him for somebody, say, like Lukaku, Ibrahimovic, who could do it. But Aguero would be guaranteed to score goals in Europe.
All right, a couple other Premier League teams I think we need to talk about. Arsenal and PSG, they tie 1-1 after a late 70-plus minute goal from Arsenal to tie things up. A fair result, I feel like. PSG, they're 7th in Ligue 1. Arsenal, they're doing all right, I feel like, in the Premier League. Not fantastic, but a fair result from 2 clubs that I think is easy to say are underperforming right now.
I think you're perfectly right there. Yeah, they are both underperforming. Arsenal are starting to get better. They're starting to get Ozil fit, Sanchez fit. They've brought Lucas Perez in. They've brought Mustafi in. So they're trying to get the team to gel together.
Yeah.
And PSG have got to get used to a brand new manager. They've got Unai Emery in there who's changing things. They've lost Ibrahimovic, so they've lost the talisman. Cavani's now having to play as a centre man. So, again, both teams are in adjustment. I think it was a fair result. However, if you've got Giroud, he's not scoring goals, he's not getting in the team, and he got himself sent off.
Well, the only Arsenal player I have on my team continues to score penalty kick goals in the Premier League. It's Santi Cazorla. He was on the waiver wire, too, after our draft, and I was able to go and grab Cazorla, and he's done well for me. He's my leading scorer on my team right now. So I feel good about that. But Arsenal players, it's very hard to know who's going to show up. But at least if you can kind of pick out the guys that are going to be the set piece takers or the dead ball takers, that will at least benefit you at some point. And it's worked out for me so far. 2 penalty kick goals from Santi Cazorla. Aside from that, though, I mean, we got to talk about Leicester City at least for a moment. Their first Champions League game, I think ever, right? They've never been in the Champions League, to my knowledge. And they rattle off a 3-0 victory in a very impressive fashion. 2 goals from Riyad Mahrez as well, too. So if you play the Sun, that's more points for you. Again, a very good performance from the newcomers to the Champions League, I feel.
It was a good performance, and overall, I mean, Leicester are using it as it's an adventure. It doesn't matter what happens. If we go out in the group stages, we shouldn't have been here. Then they're going to see how long they go. Yeah, Riyad Mahrez, 2 goals, starman performance. Again, he's bagged some big points in the Sun.
Yeah.
I wasn't behind Mahrez. I did put him down as one of the lower players, but he's decided to turn it on in Europe. But again, clean sheets for the defenders and the goalkeepers. So if you've got Fuchs, Simpson, Hoof and Morgan, you're going to pick up some points there. Just 2 more games in Europe that we've not mentioned that have got ramifications for the Premier League and also for fantasy is Feyenoord beating Man United and Southampton scoring 3 goals at home against Slavia Prague with
How
Charlie
surprising.
Austin.
I was a little surprised by them doing that. I don't know if you were or not, but...
Not really. I've got a little bit of an interest in Czech football because the company that I work for are based in the Czech Republic, and Slavia Prague are the number 1 team out there. But it's a completely different league. It's not quite as bad as Ligue 1, but it's still a league.
It's a close second. It's a good close second.
It's a good close second. But, Charlie Austin kind of been in the shadows since he joined Southampton. He's there or thereabouts. We had him in our... top 20 strikers when we did it in our preview series, just at the same level as Shane Long, but he's not really had a go in the Premier League. Yeah. But he's got 2 goals in Europe. Good chance that he might get a start at the weekend, and if he does, he could kick on from there.
You know, I mean, when you look at the disappointments, and yesterday I turned on the American radio stations, the soccer radio stations, and all anybody wanted to talk about yesterday was Man United. Are you buying? Are you selling based off of them losing the Manchester Derby and them losing in Europa League? It's only been a couple of games and suddenly people are already jumping off the ship, at least here in America. I don't know what the feel is over there in England where you guys actually see them day in and day out.
Well, Manchester United and Manchester United, obviously they lost to the Manchester Derby. They were not very good in the first half. Manchester City completely outplayed them, but in the second half they came back. The trouble is, I said it, I think everybody said it, I think everybody thought about it, is how do you get that many world-class players into a team? With Paul Pogba looking completely lost, running around like a headless chicken in the Manchester Derby. He's got nobody next to him to keep him under control. At Juventus, he had Pirlo, he had Marchisio, he had Vidal. He had quality players that would say, OK, Pogba, you go forward, I'll hang back. If you look at Tottenham with Eric Dyer and Moussa Dembele last season, Eric Dyer said to Moussa Dembele, listen, I'll stay here and do all the dirty work. You go off and make all of the plays happen.
Yep.
When he plays for France, he's got Blaise Matuidi who will sit next to him and go, listen, I'll do all the dirty work, you go off and play. The trouble is Man United are putting him in the centre of midfield next to the likes of Fellaini, Herrera, Schneiderlin. These guys all want to go up push forward to go for goals. He would benefit from having Michael Carrick put next to him. But going back to Manchester United, it's a hot mess. It's something that needs to get sorted out sooner rather than later. And it will do. They're going to bounce back this weekend. I think they've got a pretty simple game. Let's just see their fixtures. They've got Watford away on Sunday lunchtime. So again, it should be a fair enough game. But Watford beating West Ham United 4-2, we've been 2-0 down away from home. You never know what's going to happen.
That is true, and that's the funny part about it too, is that you never really know what you're going to get with Man United. Somebody did make the argument yesterday too. They said, "Well, Manchester United, they're too big to fail." I was like, "Are they though?" Because even though you've got all these big stars, you're only as good as the team chemistry. You could have the best player from every single team in the world on a starting 11, but if you don't have good chemistry and you don't have good communication with the coach, it's not going to potentially work out well for you.
Well, no, and Jose Mourinho is a hell of a coach, but he's known as a quick fix artist. He'll do 2 to 3 seasons at Manchester United. Probably won't do much in the first season. He'll then make his changes that he needs to make, and probably next year they'll be a much better side. It's tough to say, but Man United, when you say they're too big to fail, they're not too big to fail. And a team like Manchester United, who should be winning trophies, the FA Cup last year would probably be seen as a failure to Manchester United. They haven't won the league since Fergie left, so that's 3 seasons at least before they've even started to think about winning the league. And they can fail. They failed last season in the Europa League. They didn't qualify for the Champions League with the likes of Tottenham and Leicester getting in ahead of them. It's a long thing to think about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that one. All right, any other final thoughts at all? Do we need to go to the Premier League now? Finally, are we done with the European champion as a whole?
Yeah, I think we can finish with Europe. That's absolutely fine. Let's should we break and then hit with the Premier League?
Yeah, why not? Let's. Do we start with the Manchester Derby, or where do we start?
Oh, well, I think we've talked about the Manchester derby. I am, again, looking at all of the results from last week, looking at something a bit more interesting was the Liverpool versus Leicester game.
Yeah.
Liverpool 4, Leicester City 1.
Woo!
Leicester coming undone by pure... it was relentless. They were like a bunch of bull terriers snapping at the heels of Leicester. They just wouldn't let Leicester play. And the fact that Leicester like to give the possession to the opposition and then hit them on the counter, Liverpool just let them do it. However, Leicester did score a goal from a mistake, which was a shame because I would have expected Liverpool to have gotten better in defence. But 2 goals for our boy Firmino. And again, we bigged him up at the start of the season and said, get him in your team where you can. So 2 goals from him.
And he's in one of my teams. Yeah. Sorry, continue. I was just saying Firmino's in one of my teams, so that's why I was just saying, that's why. So continue.
Oh, sorry. No. I just was looking up for Sadio Mane to see what sort of availability he had, but he's well and truly snapped up. But yeah, it was a good game. It was a fast game. It went end to end. But again, in the Premier League last weekend, lots and lots of goals were scored. Very few clean sheets. Only Tottenham and Bournemouth, the only 2 teams keeping clean sheets last Saturday in the Premier League. I know that there was a 2-2. I know Everton kept a clean sheet against Sunderland on Monday.
Yep.
Romelu Lukaku hat-trick. Another player that we told you to get in your teams. Lukaku hat-trick. He's scoring the goals. Tottenham, Toby Alderweireld, who was our number 1 defender.
Yep.
Clean sheet and a goal against Monaco as well this week. So another player that we've picked up.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I mean, it was a very good weekend for the good players. There wasn't a lot of like little guys sneaking around that are dropping 2 or 3 goals, and you're like, wait a minute, who are these guys? It's like, no, it's the guys that you expect week in and week out to actually play properly. We're doing that. I mean, I was a little surprised by Lukaku's hat trick personally, but I also have him on my PremierLeague.com team, so I was very happy to have him.
I had him as vice-captain, so bonus points there. Again, Arsenal versus Southampton, 2-1 to Arsenal. We've talked about Cazorla scoring a penalty, but Lauren Koscielny scoring a goal. Again, I think he was our number 2 defender when we did the pick. We couldn't really choose between him and Alderweireld. Christian Benteke scored for Crystal Palace, so another goal. Go to Tottenham beating Stoke 4-0. Dele Alli and Harry Kane getting on the score sheet for the first time this season.
How good does that feel to have Harry Kane finally get a ball in the back of the net?
It felt good. He still looks a little bit tired. He looks a little bit leggy, a little bit lacking confidence, but hopefully that's going to start picking up. 2 goals for Hyung-Sung Min, a player that we didn't even talk about. Didn't expect him to really come out of anywhere, and started against Stoke and scored 2 goals completely at random.
That's how it works, though, sometimes. I mean, it's just... I mean, and we know, too, Stoke City is just one of those teams that, they're good, they're bad, they're good, they're bad, they're bad, they're bad, they're good. It's like, wait, what? It's like, make up your mind. So the fact that Tottenham was able to go 4-0 against Stoke doesn't really surprise me that much. It's like, this is a result I would have probably bet should have happened.
Well, they've only picked at 1 point this season. They were very, very poor. Very, very poor. And talking about very, very poor teams that we expected to do quite badly. Burnley played Hull, and Robert Snodgrass, one of our sleepers, scored again, another goal. So it's quite pleasing to see from our perspective is that players that we told you to put in your fantasy teams at the start of the season are scoring you points. So if you didn't listen to us, well, let's hope you're doing a hell of a lot better than we are.
Exactly right. I mean, some people have even been joking, calling him, I think I've heard people call him Snodgrass Dino or something like that to like make him sound Brazilian with his like crazy with his crazy left foot that he's got there. I mean, he's a special player.
Snodgrass Aldo, Snodgrass Aldinho, Snodgrass Simovic.
Exactly, Snodgrassy, something like, I don't know. He's a good player, and we're not just saying that because he's also helping our fantasy teams do really well also. But, all right, before we run to our break, Simon, any other final thoughts before we bring on William Walters in our next segment?
No, let's just say it was very high scoring for strikers, midfielders and assists, and very low scoring for your defenders as well. So, again, that's the risk that you take.
All right. We're going to run to our first break. When we come back, William Walters will be here with us to give us some Liverpool insight. You're listening to the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. Stay tuned for more. Back inside the studio, the Fantasy Soccer Coaches rolling right along. I'm Baxter Colburn, joined alongside by Simon Mitchell. All right, Simon, we had a great chat in the first segment in regards to the Champions League, Europa League, Premier League, any sort of league, except for Ligue 1, because nobody likes Ligue 1, obviously. But it was a good opening segment, lots of content there for us. But now we get to move on to a guest. We try to have a guest on every show in our second segment to give you not only a change of pace from Simon and I, but also to bring some more insight into the world of football or soccer, depending on what word you say. And sometimes from a more team perspective as well, too. So we're going to head over to the Merseyside, to Liverpool, and we're going to bring in William Walters to join us, our Liverpool correspondent. So good morning, good afternoon to you, William, and welcome to the Fantasy Soccer Coaches, sir.
Great to join you guys. What a day for Liverpool. Chelsea, after the huge win against Leicester, let's see what's going to happen.
You know, I think today is going to be I wouldn't say it's a make or break. It's a little early in the season, but it's really going to set the tone, I feel like, for both Chelsea and Liverpool the rest of the way down.
Yeah, I kind of found it a little humorous that last week in his pre-match press conference, Leicester boss Claudio Ranieri, who comes up with great lines all the time, we've grown accustomed to that. Yep. He said that Liverpool were one of his title favorites. I hit rewind just to make sure I heard that right, because I don't quite think we're title favorites, but no doubt that the performance last Saturday will have a lot of people very excited.
Well, I mean, he did preface that as one of. He didn't say they were his absolute title favorites. He did say, oh, there's a couple, but... there's only a couple hours away until this match absolutely kicks off, which I'm sure just has everybody buzzing. But as you look at this game, William, as you look at the stars that are going to be out on the field, who are some of the big players that jump out at you that you're just like, you know what, keep an eye on XYZ tonight because they're going to be on fire?
Well, obviously, I think from a Liverpool perspective, you have to start with Sadio Mane. I mean, what a signing he has been. He just adds a bit of flair in the midfield and an ability to break down defenses with a very precise pass. And then, of course, he gets in attack like he did Saturday with Sturridge and with Firmino, and it's magic. Mm-hmm. So you have to start with Mane, but I'm kind of looking at the other side of the pitch tonight. Joel Matip has to have a fantastic game. Why? Because he's going to be shielding or defending for most of the game Diego Costa, and we all know that when Diego Costa is not crazy and borderline red card, he's no good. So I think it's imperative for Matip to play a good game, and you're going to get the trash talk from Costa. It's part of what makes Costa, A, so great, but B, so controversial. He will do anything to get you booked, to get you sent off.
Yep.
It's a little bit Suarez-like, if we're being honest. So I think Matip has to have a good game, and then I'm interested to see what Klopp does with this lineup, because he has a real selection headache. If you recall last year, all of the away games to the big clubs, he went with Firmino in a false nine role. Well, do you do that again, knowing how well Sturridge played on Saturday? It's a very difficult decision, I think, for Klopp.
I think when you were talking about Matip having a great game, it's very clear that Liverpool and Chelsea both haven't managed to get their defences in order. They're both quite open to conceding goals. So the fact that we're hearing over here in the UK that David Luiz is going to start in a three-man defence with Ivanovic and Cahill, and he's going to play with two wing-backs in Azpilicueta and Willian, is that something that Liverpool might think of doing as well? Because I know that a couple of times last season, Klopp played with three at the back, using Emre Can as a extra defender.
I think what begs that question even more is what he did with Lucas on Saturday, playing him at the back. To me, Lucas should never be at the back, and it's for reasons like that handed goal to Jamie Vardy why I feel that way. I think once Emre Can comes back, he will try and play him with Lucas in a defensive midfield pair. If that doesn't work, you may very well see Klopp go back to having Can at the back with perhaps a pairing of Klavan and Matip, maybe Lovren and Matip. But I would personally stay away from that just because you've already got enough defensive problems without having really one less guy at the back. And in essence, when they play for the back and Alberto Moreno is in the lineup, they're kind of playing with three at the back because he's no more a defender really than any of us are. He's very much an attacking wing back, and that's why I think that it's a great positive that James Milner is willing to play left back rather than his central midfield or attacking midfield roles that he's accustomed to. I think James Milner, midfielder by trade, is the best left back Liverpool have.
Talking with go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, sorry, no, I was just going to say, you're right there with James Milner, and talking about the midfield, Philippe Coutinho is fit. Does he go straight back into the starting 11?
I think he does, because I think the one thing that we know, historically speaking, about Adam Lallana is when you bring him off the bench, he is a change of pace. He's a burst of energy, and right now I think we would have to say he's in some of the best form of his career. His game on Saturday, again, fantastic. And it seems that if there's one player that you can point to and say, okay, here's the effect that Jurgen Klopp has had in his 12 months in charge, it's Adam Lallana, because he's been fantastic this year.
We've heard his name, a lot more.
I would start, I think I would go Coutinho, Firmino, and Mane behind Sturridge tonight.
That's an interesting lineup. Okay. Now, I'm curious, William, too. We always talk about what players need to show up. What happens if, or give us, I should say, if player X doesn't show up, this team, Liverpool will lose, or Chelsea will lose?
Well, for me, if Firmino doesn't show up, Liverpool does not have a chance tonight, because when you consider where he's playing on the pitch and the freedom that he's being given, he is crucial to not only connecting the midfield to the forward line if there's going to be a Sturridge up there, or if he's going to be the lone striker with Mane on one side of him and perhaps Coutinho or Lallana on the other side of him.
Sure, yeah.
I think he's crucial to Liverpool. And for Chelsea, especially if they're going three at the back, I think we know how important Nemanja Matic is to their team, but he's going to be crucial tonight because he's going to have Firmino running at him, perhaps Coutinho running at him, Mane running at him. He's got to have a good game, and he can't get pushed up the field, because we know that David Luiz, the last time the world actually watched a game with David Luiz in, he was captaining Brazil, and it did not end very well for the host country in the 2014 World Cup.
That is
so
very true.
David Luiz is not going to stand back there and be a defender. He wants to go attack. He wants to put the ball down from 30 yards for a free kick and try and hit a screamer. He and Alberto Moreno are very similar, actually, in that they're listed as defenders, but everyone forgot to tell them that they're actually defenders.
I would agree with that. With that issue though with David Luiz, I think he is probably one of the biggest boom or bust players in the Premier League, because it's like, look, he's either gonna cost your, fantasy goalkeeper potentially, or your fantasy team points by conceding goals, or he's going to get a screamer of a goal and get you a bunch of points and maybe help you win your team. Like, there's no middle ground. It's like, you look at some players, it's like, okay, 5 points, 7 points, 10 points. With David Luiz, he either has, maybe -1, or he's got, +15. It's like, make up your mind. He doesn't know he's all over the place. And I think from a manager perspective, that's got to be really frustrating, and maybe something that some coaches don't even want to deal with from a fantasy perspective.
And I think for his Chelsea manager, Antonio Conte probably, and I think what Klopp said is exactly right. Conte is the Mourinho of Turin. He is just fantastic as a manager. A lot of people question whether his personality would fit Chelsea. Well, it seems to be doing all right so far.
Yeah, I was going to say, so far, so
but
good.
I think he had this very clear idea when he went to sign Luiz that Luiz was going to play center back, and then he's getting all these questions. So you're going to play him in midfield, and he's probably going, what about my coaching style makes you think I'm putting David Luiz in the midfield?
No, I agree with you on that one, too. I mean, it's just such a conundrum at times. But there was so many of these new coaches that came to the Premier League this year. Obviously, Mourinho and Pep, and obviously Conte as well, too. But Chelsea, I think, is in a much better place this season than they were last season. I think that they bring more to the table. But on that same chord, though, Liverpool, they get an actual full season now with the mastermind that is Jurgen Klopp as well, too. So it's kind of the tale of two different cities, but both teams really possess high-quality managers and high-quality players as well.
I was thinking about this watching that Leicester game. When Brendan Rodgers was the manager of Liverpool.
What a time to be alive.
You're not lying. If you like goals, boy, just flip on the TV on a Saturday morning.
Yep, exactly.
But I would always worry when he would go up against an elite manager. Is he going to just badly get out-coached? The perfect example of a game where he did get out-coached was the Chelsea game in their title charge season where they blew it at home. Everyone thinks they blew it when they drew Crystal Palace. No, they blew it when they couldn't get the job done at home against Chelsea. And for my money at least, Mourinho simply outcoached him on that day. Now with Klopp, I don't mind facing Man United with Mourinho. I don't mind facing Man City with Guardiola. I don't mind facing Chelsea with Conte because, in my mind, Klopp is either even or a little bit ahead of those guys because he has 10 months extra with his team right now. In a couple of years, he may not be above them, but for now, I think Liverpool are at an advantage with these heavyweight coaching matchups.
And just finally, just before we wrap up, and thank you for coming on and giving us an insight into Liverpool, who's your tip to win the league this season?
Ooh.
Well, I definitely think it's Manchester City. I think that Manchester United are going to have problems because, as we've seen in the last two games, I think they're over-reliant on Pogba and Zlatan. And I think you can even take that back to the Hull City game where they won on a Rashford goal in stoppage time.
The kid.
I definitely think Manchester City are a cut above. I think what they did with the attacking options that they've got now, and Iheanacho, what a player. What a find by Pellegrini when he was there. If there's that lasting effect of Pellegrini, it's got to be Kelechi Iheanacho. He's been fantastic. And then I do think Manchester United will be top four. I do think Chelsea will be top four. And the fourth spot is, I think, kind of up for grabs. Liverpool right now, I think back to that Burnley game, and that's why I don't think Liverpool are favorites for top four right now. They need to be more consistent with performances like that against Arsenal and that against Leicester. But hopefully it's a good race. Arsenal's to be in it. I mean, don't they chase fourth place every year?
Someone's got to do it consistently. Come on. Why not be the Gunners? Woo!
Why not? So Liverpool, Arsenal. It doesn't look like West Ham are as good as they were. Southampton's toward the bottom right now. And also Leicester aren't quite what they were a year ago. but don't tell Club Brugge that, obviously.
No, never.
And I think the one thing that will maybe catapult Liverpool, and I hope they do this tonight. I don't know if they're going to or not. Just go ahead and put Karius in goal. You signed him. He's a German goalkeeper. German goalkeepers are typically pretty sound, especially technique-wise. It's time for Mignolet to be the guy to play in the Capital One Cup. So let's get Karius in there. And, let's see what happens. If Liverpool get top 4 this year, I think it's a great springboard for Klopp and for what he's trying to do. And I think the reason why he ended up with Sadio Mane and not Mario Götze is because they're not playing Champions League football.
Fair enough. Well, William, we appreciate you taking time on the program today. I speak, I believe, for Simon and myself that we thoroughly appreciated your insight about Liverpool. And we hope to do this again sometime in the near future, sir. So thank you.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
No, yeah, anytime. Thank you. We appreciate it. All right, we're going to run to another break. When we come back, Simon and I will wrap up the show and finish talking about the Premier League and take a look at our teams headed into this weekend of action. You're listening to the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back to the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. I'm Baxter Colburn. He's Simon Mitchell. Just heard from our Liverpool correspondent William Walters in our last segment. Very insightful, very exciting content that he tossed our way, and making some bold predictions there about the Premier League and about some of the Liverpool players as well too. Simon, what were some of your takeaways from what William tossed our way?
I just loved his enthusiasm for Liverpool, and the fact is that he genuinely believes that they've got a chance. They're not going to win the league, but the players that they've got fit in well. They cycle around. The fact they haven't got European football is going to be a benefit for them. And I still really do believe that if Liverpool can get their acting together, they can get a defence, a four-man solid defence working well.
Yeah.
I really do believe they've got a shot to win the league. I really do.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, we look about all those offensive options they have. I mean, it's hard to deny that, But as you did mention, though, that goalkeeping issue could be maybe the Achilles heel of Liverpool this season. So we'll have to kind of see what they do down the stretch.
Yeah, they do lack a quality goalkeeper. We're not sure about this like Karius that they've signed. He's still recovering from a broken hand. Mignolet has an error in him, but he also has a world-class performance in him. And also struggling at left-back. They can't keep James Milner at left-back. And the other option, Moreno, is... But I would rather put a chair there than Moreno. I think it would do a better job.
No, I would agree with you on that one. All right, let's review quickly the weekend that is coming up. Obviously, we heard all about it tonight. Liverpool and Chelsea. We don't really need to talk more about that. Let's look ahead to tomorrow and Sunday. On Saturday, you've got Hull versus Arsenal, Leicester, Burnley, Man City, Bournemouth, West Brom, West Ham, Everton, Middlesbrough. What do you like about those Saturday games, and who are your fantasy guys you're watching there, Simon?
Manchester City versus Bournemouth is the one that stands out for me. I genuinely believe that Manchester City are going to score a large chunk of goals. Bournemouth are struggling a little bit. They're starting to get their act together. They kept a clean sheet last weekend, but despite the fact there's no Aguero, still have De Bruyne, still have Iheanacho, they still have David Silva, they still have Raheem Sterling. It's a very good team. A bag load of goals against Mönchengladbach. There's a great chance that they are going to bang out some goals.
I would agree with you on that one. So if you can get any more Manchester City players in your starting lineup, probably a smart play at this point. Get rid of your Bournemouth defenders if you have any, aka me. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with that. But Arsenal Hull has the possibility to be intriguing. Same with Leicester Burnley, but we've seen what Hull and Burnley have done so far early this year, and they're not as bad as you would like them to be, potentially, if you are an Arsenal or a Leicester fan.
Yeah, Hull could give Arsenal a good game. They gave Manchester United an absolute barnstorming defensive performance before the international break, where it was a last-minute goal from Rashford that gave Man United the points. Hull, again, could be in a similar sort of position. Very wet, very windy. Arsenal still reeling a little bit from their midweek adventures in Paris. Hull could spring a surprise there. I don't see Burnley springing a surprise at Leicester. I think the game against Bruges has really given them impetus to get going. Obviously, Andre Gray will score. Fingers crossed. We're all praying that Andre Gray scores some goals this season. But Leicester at home, it could be, the game against Bruges could be the petrol in the car to get it started really for them this season. But we'll have to wait and see.
What do you make of the Everton-Middlesbrough game? I think that's kind of like the underdog game of the week.
Potentially. Everton are starting to play very, very well. They're third in the league with 10 points. The only points they've dropped was at home against Tottenham on the opening game. They've then won the last 3 games. Middlesbrough again started okay, but have started to tail off. They lost at home to Palace last weekend. Lukaku's hat-trick. Everton again have had a whole week off. No major injuries to the squad. Middlesbrough still finding their feet in the Premier League. If I was a betting man and I could go to the bookies, I would definitely say that Lukaku would score at some point. But the sort of player that Lukaku is, you won't get the odds that are worth putting any money on.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that one. All right, and then of course Negredo will get a hat trick as well. All right, Watford hosts United, Crystal Palace hosts Stoke, Southampton hosts Swansea, and Spurs play host to Sunderland on Sunday. 4 matches all scattered throughout the daytime. That Watford Man United game is just is it a trap game or is it a fantasy gold mine?
I really believe that game could be a 0-0, 1-1. I don't see anything exciting coming from it because Man United are very turgid in defence. Ibrahimovic will be back after coming off the bench against Feyenoord in the loss yesterday. Rooney was rested, Mkhitaryan was rested, Lingard was rested. Well, if you could call Mkhitaryan and Lingard rested, I think they were more just dropped from a very large height by Mourinho after the game at Man City. That one, there's no standout, so I can't see which way that game could go. Watford, who came from 2-0 down away at West Ham to win 4-2, was an unbelievable performance, but against Man United, it's a different opposition. I think it'll be close. It could just be a 1-0 to a 1-1. It could be a close game. But fantasy-wise, this weekend, Tottenham versus Sunderland. Spurs defender, Spurs goalkeeper, you need to get in your team. Sunderland won't score at White Hart Lane. They're very, very poor. Tottenham will be like a injured dog in a corner. They will come at Sunderland and they will go out there to absolutely annihilate them. I see Pochettino making changes. He'll bring in the likes of Sissoko. He'll bring in Dembele. He'll bring in Trippier, perhaps at right back instead of Kyle Walker. Perhaps Janssen will get a start ahead of Harry Kane after the midweek game against Monaco. He'll make changes. He'll bring players in because he's also got Gillingham on Wednesday in the EFL Cup, which was formerly the Capital One Cup. It's no longer sponsored. It's now called the EFL Cup for corrections and clarifications.
Sure.
But Tottenham players for the next week against Sunderland at home, then against Gillingham at home. So you're looking for Tottenham players. Perhaps Vincent Janssen will start both those games. Perhaps Moussa Sissoko will start both those games to give him some on-pitch time, and the same with Moussa Dembele. So 3 players there that wouldn't normally be about, but could be a cheap pickup for a couple of games that could score you points.
All right. Well, those are all the games. Obviously, if you want to let us know your thoughts, you can find us, of course, on the social media world, on Facebook, the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. Send us a message. Let us know your predictions if you've got some. I'm at Baxter Colburn. He is at Mitch the Coach on Twitter. And I believe we are at TF Soccer Coaches as well on Twitter as well. We love hearing from you guys. We love all the support that we continue to have tossed our way. I do want to make one special quick announcement as well today. One of our loyal listeners is also one of our Man United correspondents, Abhishek David. He hasn't been on the show yet. He's going to. Today's his birthday, so I wanted to extend a very happy birthday to him and a thank you to him as well for his continued listenership and support of the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. Simon, do you have any final thoughts for us, sir, before we run out?
Well, it's somebody else's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, is it?
Somebody very special and very dear to the show. It's me.
Oh, Simon.
It's my birthday tomorrow.
Your birthday's tomorrow, and your wedding anniversary's in 2 days too, isn't it?
It's the day after. 12 years married on Sunday.
Wow. A very happy birthday to you, sir, and a happy anniversary as well, too.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. I'm sure we will. I'm sure you will be even more knowledgeable and have much more wisdom to bestow upon us next week when you are a year older and more smart. Correct?
It all depends on the Tottenham result. If Tottenham go and lose 2 games on the bounce against Sunderland and Gillingham, then I won't be imparting any wisdom whatsoever.
We might be looking for a guest co-host next week if Tottenham lose both games. I love it. I love it. Well, a very special thank you to all of you for tuning in to another edition of the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. Thanks to William Walters, our Liverpool correspondent, for joining us today as well. And, of course, you can get our show on demand on the Sports Podcasting Network on iTunes. Go and subscribe to our podcast. Write us a little review. That would be fantastic. And then, of course, you can find it on Spreaker.com as well. And then on social media, Simon, where are we at?
And on social media, it's my fault. I'm the one that's... I'm getting phone calls from the wife. That's why I was suddenly in a panic. Okay, so you can find us on social media, as we've already mentioned, on Twitter, at TF Soccer Coaches. He is at Baxter Colburn. I am at Mitch the Coach. And if you want to find us on Facebook, we are the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. And also, if you want to send us a long, rambling email, you can do tfsoccercoaches@gmail.com. And before we go anywhere, we are not going to talk about the San Diego Chargers. What a terrible performance. That's where I leave that.
And I'm pretty sure Real Salt Lake as well lost this last weekend to Portland as well. So it just was it's been a good day. It's been a good week for Simon. I love it.
It's all falling apart.
I love it. All right, he's Simon Mitchell. I'm Baxter Colburn. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next time on the Fantasy Soccer Coaches. Have a great Premier League-filled weekend.